Hello and welcome to this Season 4 Week 12 BoP Tier List video. This week's data was captured Thursday morning CST using the iRacing Reports Discord, link below. Now some may notice there was no Week 11 video, as unfortunately I didn't have time with the holiday here last week combined with my look ahead to the Season 1 build, but I hope you all were able to make do. And also stick around after the Week 12's tier list for each car to see how the BoPs graded out over the course of the entire season. Alright, starting off, let's take a look at the Touring Car Challenge, which this week heads to Laguna Seca, which is also home of this weekend's Michelin Pilot Challenge. For the TCR Fixed series, BoP this week falls in line with what we saw the majority of the season, with the RS3 and Civic trailing behind the Hyundais, and this week is no different as both cars go C tier. And then we have an A tier to the Elantra and an S tier to the Veloster this week. So here's your Touring Car Challenge Fixed tier list for this week at Laguna Seca. Now let's take a look at how they graded out over the course of the entire season on average. And do know I did exclude week 1's tier list results. As you may remember, there was a huge patch that kind of came in during the end of that week due to issues the cars were having with their BoPs. So I did not want that to kind of influence the final results here. But as you can see, the Hyundais finished both in the A tier, while the Audi and Honda Civic finished at the B-. So overall the BoPs for the series wasn't too terrible, although the Hyundais probably could use a little bit of a tweak to bring them both closer to the Audi and Honda Civic. And for the Open Series, setup adjustments allowed the Civic and RS3 to catch up in pace with the Veloster, with the Civic and RS3 in B and the Veloster in a B+. However, the Elantra in turn takes off with a few setup adjustments, going S+ tier. And so here's your Touring Car Challenge Open setup tier list for this week at Laguna Seca. And looking at the season as a whole, we have the Audi in a C-, the Civic at a C+, the Veloster A, and the Elantra taking an S- tier, as it seemed to benefit the most from setup adjustments compared to the Veloster in particular. And again, you can see here how the Honda and Audi probably could use a little bit more of a buff, or the Hyundai is taking a little bit of a nerf, bring all the cars a little bit closer for next season. We'll see if that happens. All right, next we're moving on to the GT4s, which are also at Laguna Seca. And for the GT4 Fixed series, all median times are within that 1 second window. B tier for the BMW and Porsche, A tier to the McLaren, and an A+ for the Aston Martin, with that Mercedes going S tier. And so here's your GT4 Challenge Fixed tier list for this week at Laguna Seca. And again here, looking on the season as a whole, we have the Porsche going a C tier, the McLaren a B-, with the BMW in B, and the Aston Martin A, and that Merc with an A+. Now I think the McLaren's week fixed setup performance at Oscherleben in week 5 did kind of bring it down a notch, where otherwise might have finished around a B+, as it otherwise performed pretty good throughout the year. And overall, with the exception of the Porsche, the BoPs were not too bad, as the Mercedes did seem to dominate, but not by much. Alright, and moving to the Open Series, the BMW and Porsche fell off a bit, with the Open setups going D. The McLaren and Aston Martin are about equal on median average lap times, as both go B tier, with that Mac Daddy Merc staying in the S tier as it did in the Fixed series. So here's your GT4 Challenge Open setup tier list for this week at Laguna Seca. And then looking at the entire season, I got the Porsche in a C-, the BMW in C, the McLaren B, Aston Martin B+, and the Mercedes taking an A+. And as no surprise, we see that the Mercedes is the most dominant car, but not by too much. And it seems to be a factor of the BMW and Porsche not benefiting much from open setup changes. And just a quick note, if you find this BoP video useful, drop the hammer on that like and sub button if you haven't already. If you would like to support a little bit more, there's also that super thanks and join buttons below. Alright, the GT3 Challenge Fixed heads to the Red Bull Ring to close out the season, and the BoP is looking the best it might have all season, as all car median times are in that 1 second window of average lap time pace. Now in this resolution, I got the Ford and McLaren in a C, the Audi B, the Merc B+, the Lamborghini a A-, and the Ferrari A taking its best ranking of the season, the BMW going S tier, and that Porsche still holding on to that S+ in the end. So here's your GT3 Challenge Fixed tier list for this week at Red Bull Ring. And then on the season as a whole, we got the Ford in a D, the McLaren in a D+, and it was a little too late for that Ferrari, which also sticks to a D+. Then we have the Audi, which underperformed, particularly in the beginning of the season, with its long lost Italian cousin, the Lamborghini, just being a little too inconsistent, going C+. and a fall from its previous season performance. The new Mercedes Evo is a B-, with the BMW in its consistent performance going B+. That leads to nobody's surprise who's been paying attention to Porsche grading out to a S-, a whole rank above the rest. And of course, we'll just have to take all this with a grain of salt, as we know that there's huge GT3 changes incoming for the start of season 1 in 2023. But it'll be nice to have something to come back to and compare at the end of next season. All right, now let's see how the BoPs pan out in the GT3s in a 40-minute open setup VRS sprint race. Note that the Ford is going inconclusive for lack of data points this week. But besides that, overall the BoPs stay steady like it did in the fixed results, with some minor separations here and there occurring. And in C- goes to Audi, however, which just barely holds on to that window. Then we have B tier for the Mercedes, Lamborghini, McLaren, and Ferrari. An A+ for the BMW, which steps up a bit from the rest of the pack compared to the fixed, yet still chasing the Porsche, which goes S+ tier again. And so here's your VRS GT3 Sprint tier list for this week at Red Bull Ring. And then taking a look at the final season results, we see the Ferrari stuck in that D, the Mercedes in C, along with the McLaren, which isn't quite as bad as it's made out to be, I don't think, when it's actually used, as a lot of the tier lists went inconclusive and never got ranked due to underuse. Then I have the Audi going B-, the Lambo B, along with the BMW. Now, it did seem the Lambo was never too far off the BMW, however, but the iRacing user base just seemed to gravitate towards the BMW hype anyways. But regardless, we see without much surprise the Porsche take a solid S tier to cap its season of domination. Right, next we move on to IMSA Hagerty series, which goes to Daytona International Raceway this week, and it's seen a lot of action as people prepare for the 24-hour race coming up next month. And as we just saw with the season tier list in the GT3s, the results at Daytona here are kind of mirroring them pretty well. And as expected, we see that the Porsche is over a second faster on pace than the next closest car, really taking that S+ new levels. But starting at the bottom, we have Ferrari in D tier, a C tier to the McLaren, a C+ to the Mercedes and Audi, a B to the BMW, a B+ to the Lamborghini, with that Porsche, of course, as I just said, dominating, taking an easy S+. So here's your IMSA Hagerty Series GT3 tier list for this week at Daytona International Speedway Road Course. And finally for the season on IMSA, kind of validating my overall consistency with the tier list ranks, I'd say, we have pretty similar results to what we saw with the VRS season tier list. We have the Ferrari and McLaren in D, the Mercedes with a C, and the Audi a C+. The Lambo takes a B- here, but I do wonder how it would rank if we were to go back and see how it did a few times that I had to classify as inconclusive because not enough people used it by the time I had collected data on it. Anywho, the BMW goes B+, with again the Porsche showing its dominance, taking S tier. And of course, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, if you haven't heard or seen in my video covering incoming updates for the Season 1 2023 build, which I'll put a little link for in this video, the GT3 class is basically being overhauled with new complete reshuffle of the BoP. Brand new, more detailed tire model, and damage model applied as well. So this season's results will not carry over, but it will be exciting to see just how different they change. Stay tuned to this channel on week 1. Okay, but last but not least, it's the European Sprint Series, which goes to Fuji this week, and is seeing a very little participation. And likely this is due as everyone who would usually run this series is probably focused on IMSA with Daytona. Thus, there will be no tier list this week for the ESS. But with that said, we do have the entire season tier list, where I got the BMW in a D+, a Ferrari in a B-, a Corvette, and Porsche with a B+, and a Ford taking an A. And there you have it, folks. Please do leave me a comment if you find these videos useful, as your feedback does motivate me to keep going week after week, and I do appreciate those that already have. In the meantime, please go check out one of my other most recent videos up in the right hand corner, and links below for my other YouTube channel, as well as my socials. And until next time, safe driving.